Have you ever wondered if every prayer you've ever whispered in your darkest moment might have gone somewhere completely different than you were taught? Imagine discovering an ancient clay tablet buried beneath the ruins of a forgotten empire that claims every human prayer is carefully recorded by mysterious beings hidden beneath the earth, not answered directly by the gods above. Whether you believe this story or see it as mythology, what it suggests is fascinating. If you enjoy exploring ancient mysteries like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because we're uncovering some of history's most thought-provoking discoveries. The story begins in the ruins of ancient Nineveh during the 19th century. Thousands of clay tablets were recovered from the library of King Ashurbanipal and shipped to the British Museum. Many were catalogued quickly and placed into storage, where countless fragments remained untouched for decades. Among them was one damaged tablet that seemed too ordinary to attract much attention. It was simply labeled as a minor theological text, and for years almost nobody gave it a second glance. Only much later did researchers begin translating portions of the inscription, revealing ideas that stood apart from the familiar religious traditions found throughout the ancient world. The tablet is linked to Enki, the Sumerian deity associated with wisdom, fresh water, craftsmanship, and hidden knowledge. In Sumerian literature, Enki is often portrayed as a problem solver, someone who understands the deeper structure of the world. According to this remarkable text, prayer does not travel upward toward the heavens. Instead, it moves downward through the earth itself. The wording describes prayer almost like a unique vibration carrying intention rather than simply spoken words. It separates ordinary conversation from sincere prayer, suggesting that only certain heartfelt expressions continue their journey beneath the surface. The most intriguing part comes next. The tablet claims these prayers are received in places called listening chambers. Rather than describing temples or shrines, it speaks of permanent installations that existed before the earliest human cities. These chambers are said to be occupied by mysterious beings whose sole responsibility is to receive every prayer without exception. They do not interrupt, they do not answer, and they do not speak back. Their task is simply to collect and preserve every request, every fear, every expression of hope, and every desperate plea ever spoken. What makes this description especially unusual is the language used throughout the text. Instead of poetic imagery, the writer reportedly uses terms borrowed from ancient accounting records. The same kinds of expressions used for recording grain deliveries or trade transactions appear in the description of prayer. Every message is treated like an entry in a carefully maintained ledger. Instead of emotional storytelling, the system sounds organized, structured, and almost administrative. If this reflects symbolic thinking, it is certainly unlike the symbolism found in many other ancient religious writings. The surviving portion of the tablet reportedly explains that these mysterious listeners never sleep and never stop recording. They remain constantly attentive, preserving every prayer without judging it or responding to it. According to the text, they are not the gods themselves. They are simply appointed receivers carrying out a specific function, established long before civilization began. Even Enki does not describe creating them. Instead, he refers to them as beings that had already been placed in their positions by someone else, whose identity remains unexplained. Perhaps the biggest surprise comes from what happens after the prayers are collected. Rather than granting wishes or changing events directly, the records are supposedly carried upward and presented before a council. Unfortunately, the surviving fragment breaks apart just as it begins explaining this process in detail. What remains suggests that prayers inform the council, but do not necessarily alter its decisions. If interpreted literally, this presents a completely different understanding of prayer than most people expect. If interpreted symbolically, it raises profound questions about observation, awareness, and the role of human intention. It is important to remember that there is no scholarly consensus supporting supernatural claims based on this tablet. Ancient texts often combine mythology, symbolism, religion, and cultural beliefs. Some reports surrounding this fragment make extraordinary claims that have not been independently verified by mainstream historians. That doesn't make the story uninteresting. In fact, mysteries like these encourage us to examine how ancient civilizations tried to explain the unseen parts of existence using the knowledge available to them. Even more fascinating is that similar themes appear in cultures separated by vast distances. Stories from different parts of the world describe mysterious beings associated with underground realms, hidden knowledge, or silent observation. These traditions developed independently over long periods of history, leading some researchers to compare recurring patterns rather than assuming direct connections. Most historians explain these similarities as common mythological ideas that naturally emerge across human societies, while others believe they point towards shared ancient traditions. Either way, the parallels continue to spark debate. Modern science also adds an unexpected layer to the discussion. Researchers have confirmed that life exists deep beneath Earth's surface in environments once believed to be completely lifeless. Entire microbial ecosystems survive without sunlight, drawing energy from geological processes far below our feet. Of course, these discoveries do not validate stories about intelligent underground listeners. However, they remind us that our planet still contains environments that continue to surprise scientists. Reality itself often proves stranger than our expectations. One especially thought-provoking idea found in the tablet is that every person's prayer supposedly carries its own unique signature. Rather than identifying individuals by name, the listeners recognize a distinct pattern associated with each person's expressions over an entire lifetime. Whether viewed as symbolism or mythology, this paints a powerful picture. It suggests that our deepest hopes, fears, gratitude, and moments of despair create a personal story that extends far beyond isolated events. It encourages us to think about what our own lives would look like if someone could read only the thoughts we choose to express when we feel completely vulnerable. The final surviving section of the inscription becomes even more mysterious. It describes several conditions that must occur before a long period of silence eventually comes to an end. Unfortunately, the tablet is damaged before explaining what follows. Because the ending is incomplete, every interpretation remains speculative. Some readers see it as an ancient warning about human civilization. Others see it as symbolic literature reflecting cycles of history. Without the missing lines, no one can honestly claim certainty about the author's intended conclusion. Perhaps that uncertainty is exactly why this tablet continues capturing people's imagination. The unanswered questions become part of the mystery itself. Was the story meant to describe literal events, spiritual ideas, political symbolism, or something entirely different? We simply don't know. What we do know is that the Sumerians left behind one of humanity's earliest written civilizations, and their surviving texts continue challenging modern readers to think differently about history, belief, and the search for meaning. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you discovered an ancient tablet making claims like these, would you see it as symbolic wisdom, forgotten mythology, or evidence that ancient cultures preserved ideas we still don't fully understand? Share your opinion in the comments, and if you found this mystery as fascinating as I did, send this video to someone who loves ancient civilizations and unexplained history. Sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't the answers we find, but the questions that continue echoing across thousands of years. And perhaps that is exactly why this remarkable Sumerian tablet still refuses to be forgotten.